The mist clung low to the forest floor like a living thing, curling around Alara Miles' boots as she stepped deeper into the heart of the alien woods. Her breath came slow and even more from training than calm. Every instinct told her to turn back, but the data beacon had gone silent 3 days ago, and her mission was clear. She was here to make contact. The silence of Ealer 7 was unlike anything she'd known. No birdsong, no wind through trees, only the weighty hush of a place that had long learned to observe rather than announce. Even the towering trees, thick with moss and shimmer spores, leaned in close as if listening. Alara paused beside one, placing her gloved hand on its bark. The scanner on her wrist pulsed faintly. No signs of aggressive fauna, no nearby heat signatures. And yet, she knew they were watching. The Varnock had become legend even before humanity encountered them. A species of towering, predatory creatures that tore through fleets, repelled mining colonies, and left entire settlements in ruins. Every failed approach, every ship that never returned, had only reinforced the myth. The Varnock could not be reasoned with, but Alara had read between the lines. The attacks had patterns, boundaries. They were protecting something, or someone. She moved again, ducking under low-hanging limbs and stepping lightly on the damp earth. Her suit filtered the air, but she could still catch a trace of the organic sharpness, sulfur, sap, and something faintly electric, like ozone before a storm. Then the forest shifted. It was subtle, just a ripple at first. A birdless quiet that somehow deepened. Alara froze, knees bent, one hand moving slowly to her belt. She didn't reach for her weapon. Instead, she pulled out the compact sensor cube, letting it hum faintly to life. Its low-frequency ping echoed across the trees. Nothing, then everything. From the mist, they emerged, not with a roar or a leap, but with terrifying silence. Shapes, massive, four-legged and upright in ways that defied biology. Their eyes glowed gold, cutting through the fog like lanterns. Two for them, and one far larger than the rest, its head brushing against the tree canopy, its stare fixed straight ahead. Alara remained kneeling, forcing her muscles to stay loose. Fight or flight was useless here. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a meeting place. She could feel it in the earth. From behind the front line of beasts came smaller forms. 3, no taller than her waist. Pups by the look of them. Their eyes burned with the same light, but their movements were curious, hesitant. The largest of the beasts let out a low, rumbling growl, felt more than heard, and the pups stopped, except one. The smallest. It stepped forward, head cocked, nose twitching in the air like it could read her scent through the tech. Its claws sunk softly into the moss as it padded closer. Alara didn't move. She kept her breathing slow, her hands open. When the creature finally reached her, it tilted its head again, then stretched its neck toward her face. She didn't flinch. Instead, she lowered herself fully to the ground, sitting cross-legged, level with the pup. The little one reached out a paw and touched her thigh, holding it there. Something shifted in her suit's sensors, an electromagnetic pulse, precise and intricate. She let it happen. The moment lasted seconds, but it left her body tingling with warmth. The pup pulled back, its gaze never leaving hers. Then it turned and barked, a short, sharp sound, toward the others. The alpha stepped forward. It was monstrous up close. 8 feet tall, maybe more, with a body like living armor, and fur that shimmered dark blue in the moon-filtered mist. Its mouth opened, rows of fangs catching faint light, but it didn't roar. It didn't threaten. It simply looked curious. Alara slowly removed her helmet. The air was cold and damp on her skin, and the scent hit her immediately, thick with wildness, sap, and musk. She met the alpha's gaze with calm, even as her heart slammed against her ribs. "I'm not here to take," she whispered, not expecting understanding. "I'm here to learn, to listen." The alpha didn't blink, but the pup nudged her again, closer now, pressing its side against her leg like a strange, living seal of approval. The rest of the pack shifted, relaxed, just slightly. It was enough. 3 weeks earlier, this would have been unthinkable. Her own people had laughed when she proposed peaceful contact. The last outpost that attempted diplomacy had been reduced to shredded alloy and bone within minutes. But Alara saw what the generals didn't. The patterns, the territories, the cycles of aggression tied to certain events. The Varnock weren't mindless. They were protecting their young. And for some reason, they were letting her near them. She spent hours there, silent, still, letting the pack adjust to her scent, her presence. The pups played cautiously nearby, their bioluminescent eyes blinking in patterns that almost looked deliberate, communicative. Her scanner, now silent in her lap, pulsed weakly with every contact. Eventually, the mist thickened and the Alpha let out a low rumble. The signal was clear, enough for now. The largest beast turned and melted into the woods, the others following with spectral grace. All except one pup. The smallest lingered, looking back at her, then bounding a few paces forward. It paused, waited, its head turned, gesturing with its snout. An invitation. Ilara's body screamed with the implications. No one had ever followed a Varnock into their territory and lived, but the pup waited, trusted, so she followed. Step by step, they moved through the forest, the glow of its eyes guiding her like a flame in the dark. The trees grew thicker, stranger. Flowers bloomed in colors unseen by human eyes. Every now and then, she caught flashes of the others, watching, waiting, not stopping her. When they finally reached the glade, it took her breath away. Crystals grew from the ground like frozen lightning, humming faintly with energy. Pools of phosphorescent water reflected starlight through the leaves. And in the center, resting in a nest of vines and fur, lay more pups. Dozens. A nursery. She knelt instinctively, overwhelmed not by fear, but by the raw truth of it all. These creatures, so feared, so misunderstood, were not just predators. They were parents, guardians, intelligent and ancient. The pup leaned against her side and whined softly, its body trembling with something like emotion. She touched its fur gently and again felt the pulse. Not just a pulse. A message, not in words but in sensation. Safety. Trust. Ilara closed her eyes, breathing it in. This was bigger than any diplomatic report. Bigger than any Xenobiology thesis or academic prize. This was the start of something impossible. When she opened her eyes, the Alpha stood on the ridge above, watching silently. Ilara stood slowly and bowed, something primal, respectful. The Alpha blinked once, then vanished into the trees, and she knew without doubt the Varnock had chosen her, not as an emissary, not as an intruder, but as a guardian, a keeper of their young. She wasn't sure how it happened, but somewhere in the mist and starlight, the deadliest species in the galaxy had decided to trust a human, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The sky above Eler, 7 burned amber as dust descended, washing the alien forest in molten light. Ilara stood at the edge of the glade where she'd first been accepted. Her boots were damp from dew, the air thick with scents both earthy and electric. Behind her, the smallest pup, whom she'd come to call Neru, paced nervously, its golden eyes flicking between the trees and her face. The others were out of sight, but Ilara knew they were near. She could feel the forest listening again. Her comlink crackled to life for the first time in days. Dr. Miles, this is Commander Reese of the Intrepid Horizon. Respond. She froze, torn between instinct and protocol. Her lips hovered over the mic. I read you, Commander, she said finally. Her voice was calm, but her heart wasn't. Status remains green. I've made contact. A pause, and you're not joking. No, sir. I've established trust. Limited interaction so far, but it's holding. Reese's voice was cautious. That's not possible. Every report says the Varnock shred anything within range. I'm standing here with one of their pups beside me. Another long silence. Then quieter. You're telling me they trust you? I'm saying they're not what we thought. She hesitated, glancing at Neru, who had stopped pacing and now watched her steadily. They're intelligent, organized, protective, but not needlessly violent. Your extraction window's closing. Ilara. Protocol says we return in 12 hours, with or without you. She almost answered immediately, but stopped herself. 12 hours. That wasn't enough. I need more time, she said, sharper than intended. I'm on the edge of something monumental. If we act too soon, we risk everything. They've shown me where their young live. That level of trust, it's unprecedented. We're not leaving a civilian asset on a death world to play diplomat, Reese replied. 12 hours. Then we burn fuel. The transmission cut. Ilera exhaled, low and steady. She turned the comlink off. She already knew she wasn't leaving. Not yet. Nero made a churring noise, an odd, almost avian sound, and nudged her hand with its head. She knelt, brushing her fingers along the thick, ridged fur behind its ears. They're coming, she murmured. As if on cue, the trilene rippled. 3 Varnock stepped into view. Not the Alpha, but one she recognized, taller than most, with a streak of silver etched through its flank. She'd started naming them based on features. This one, she called Ash. He regarded her with that same cold intensity, but now it lacked hostility. It felt expectant. Neru yipped and bounded toward him, brushing against his foreleg like a child reuniting with a parent. Ash looked down at the pup, then raised his head and stared directly at Ilera. She stood, slow and deliberate. The pack moved aside, revealing something behind them. Another human. Ilera's breath caught. The figure was bound, slumped over, helmet cracked and one leg bent unnaturally. The Varnock stepped back once the figure was exposed, not aggressive, but firm. They were presenting something. A challenge. A question. Ilera rushed forward, heart thundering. She dropped to her knees beside the body, turning it gently. The man's eyes fluttered open, blood caked across his brow. Lance Corporal. Darren, he rasped. Hold still. You're going to be all right, she said automatically, though the truth was murkier. His pulse was faint. He had hours at most, even with treatment. Her medkit was limited. He blinked at her, confused. You're Miles? From the research vessel? Yes. They caught us recon mission. Didn't even see them move. Ilera looked up at Ash, who still stood like a sentinel, silent and unmoving. She pieced it together quickly. This man had been part of a scouting party, perhaps from another colony effort. The Varnock had captured, not killed him. Why? No, it wasn't just a capture. It was a message. She turned back to Darren. How many of you were there? 3. All gone. They didn't even scream. And yet they'd spared him. Why? A low growl rippled through the air. One of the other Varnock, taller and bulkier, stepped forward and sniffed the wounded man. Not with aggression, but with something like curiosity. The man whimpered, shaking, and Ilera raised her hand instinctively. No, she said firmly, stepping between them. The Varnock stopped. Its golden eyes narrowed. She turned to Ash, speaking slowly. Why bring him here? What do you want me to see? Ash took a step forward. His massive clawed hand reached toward her, not to strike, but to point at the blood, not Darren's wounds. Her gloves. Ilera looked down. There, faint, nearly invisible, was a sheen of metallic red. She hadn't noticed. The sap of the forest had marked her, not just as a visitor, as one of theirs. Nero padded forward and placed himself between Ilera and the wounded man, growling softly. Understanding struck like lightning. It wasn't just that the Varnock trusted her. They were asking her to choose. This man, Darren, was from a faction that had likely provoked them, a scout for a militarized force. They had taken lives. Yet he was alive. Because of her? Or because they wanted her to decide what to do with him. She knelt beside Darren again, heart heavy. He stared at her with confusion, pain in every line of his face. Please get me out. I don't have comms at evac, she lied. And moving you without stabilizers would kill you faster. You can't just leave me. Ilera didn't answer. She looked back at Ash. You want me to judge him? Ash lowered his head, then slowly turned and walked away. Not a command. Permission. She sat for hours as night wrapped the forest in velvet silence. Nero curled beside her. Darren faded in and out of consciousness. And Ilera wrestled with a question she had never trained for. What justice looked like out here, far from laws and treaties. When dawn came, she had her answer. She activated her comlink. This is Dr. Alara Miles. I am alive. I've made first contact and established peaceful coexistence with the Varnock. Do not attempt retrieval. I am not returning. There was static for a moment. Then Commander Reese came through, voice tight with disbelief. That's a breach of protocol, Doctor. You'll be listed as rogue. Are you certain? I'm not here to serve protocols anymore. She paused, glancing down at Neru. I'm here to protect what matters. Then she turned the comm link off again, for good this time. Darren stirred. You're leaving me here? I'm giving you a chance, she said softly. You tell your people what happened here. You tell them we don't own the stars. That some lives we're meant to learn from, not conquer. His gaze was a mixture of hatred and understanding. She turned before she saw which one would win. As she walked back into the forest, Neru trotted beside her, and the trees seemed to lean closer, welcoming her home. The forest sang in strange harmonies. Wind curled to the towering violet-barked trees like breath through a flute, and the moss beneath Alara's boots glowed faintly in response to her steps. It had been 13 days since she severed contact with the intrepid horizon. She no longer counted by hours, but by patterns, the way the Varnock fed, the moon cycles of the canopy, the sleep rhythms of the pups. She had been changed, not just accepted. Transformed, her senses had sharpened. Not physically. She was still human, but attuned in a deeper way. She could feel the tension of the glade before the storm, read the body language of a Varnock mother with her young, predict how the Alpha, whom she now simply called the First, would react before he moved. That morning, she awoke to a new rhythm. The Varnock were restless. Ash found her near the riverbank, where she often sat in quiet observation. His golden eyes flicked with urgency. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer, not with words. But he turned his head toward the eastern ridge and growled, low and sharp. The pups, narrow among them, perked up instantly and scattered behind her. A warning. Then she heard it, the distant thrum of atmospheric engines. A dropship. Her chest clenched. Reese. She hadn't thought he'd return this quickly, or at all. But someone had come, and they weren't arriving quietly. She followed Ash up the ridge, the climb treacherous but familiar. At the summit, she crouched beside him, the canopy stretching out like a sea below them. In the distance, breaking through the fog, a sleek black vessel tore through the atmosphere and landed hard near the southern grove. Too aggressive, too practiced. Not a rescue mission, a strike. She closed her eyes, trying to calm the panic rising in her. She had warned them. She'd given the Varnock every reason to trust her, but now that trust would be tested. The humans were coming not to negotiate, but to subdue. Ash watched her without expression. "I'll go," she said, breathless. "I'll talk to them." Ash growled again, softer, uncertain. It wasn't fear she heard. It was something closer to disappointment. She was one of them now, but also not, and the boundary was closing in fast. She descended the ridge and made her way through the forest at a jog. The sounds of boots and weapons locking into place echoed faintly between the trunks. When she finally reached the grove, it was crawling with armored Marines, standard recon gear, EM rifles, pulse grenades. Reese wasn't among them, but she recognized the insignia, Expeditionary Command. She raised her hands as she stepped into the clearing. "I'm unarmed," she called out. Weapons snapped toward her instantly. One man stepped forward, visor retracting. His eyes widened when he recognized her. "Dr. Miles," he said, "you're supposed to be dead." "No, I'm here, with them. You need to leave, now." He scowled. "Where's the rest of the team?" There was no team, just me, and I've made contact. Peaceful contact. He didn't lower his weapon. "You don't get to decide that. We lost 12 outposts to these things. We've orders to cleanse and secure the region." Alara's voice dropped to a cold whisper. "If you fire a single round, you'll kill every chance we've got." "Too late," he muttered. From the tree-line, 2 other soldiers emerged, dragging something behind them. A Varnock, injured, young. Its glow was dim, flickering like a dying lantern. Neru. Ilera ran toward them without thinking. Let him go. The nearest Marine raised his rifle again. Stand down, Doctor. She froze, but only for a moment. That pup's not a threat. He's a child. You're making this worse. Doesn't look like a child to me. You're blind, then, she hissed. They gave me their trust. Their children. Do you know what that means? In any species. The commanding officer looked uncertain for a moment, but behind him, one of the soldiers shifted his grip, and that was all it took. From the trees, the Varnock descended. It wasn't a charge. It was a convergence. Fast, silent, unrelenting. Before the soldiers could react, Ash tackled one, claws slicing the air. The others scattered into chaos. Ilera dropped to her knees beside Neru, pulling him close, whispering frantic reassurances. All around her, energy weapons discharged, lighting the grove in staccato flashes. But it was over quickly. The Varnock didn't kill indiscriminately. They disabled, disarmed, made a point. When the gunfire ceased, the surviving soldiers were pinned unconscious or restrained. Ilera stood slowly, blood on her sleeves, not hers. Ash approached, and behind him, the massive alpha loomed, his breath steaming in the cold morning air. His gaze fell on the pup, then on Ilera. She stepped forward. They attacked first, she said quietly. We didn't start this, but we can end it differently. The first said nothing, but he lowered his head slightly, then turned and walked back into the forest. It was a gesture of incredible restraint. Ash lingered a moment longer before he too disappeared, leaving Ilera with the stunned remnants of a failed assault. She activated her emergency beacon, not to summon reinforcements, but to force a negotiation. The message she encoded was simple. Non-hostile contact achieved. Cease military operations. Further aggression will be met in kind. She stayed with the wounded Marines until they could be evacuated. Not one Varnock returned during that time. Not even Neru. But when the ship finally came, she didn't board. She remained in the forest. Word spread faster than light. A human had lived with the deadliest species known to the galaxy, and not only survived, but been accepted, trusted. The Varnock would not approach human settlements. But they would not hide anymore, either. The conflict became something else entirely. A study, a bridge, and Ilera stood at its center. The forest no longer hummed with danger when she walked through it. It breathed with recognition. She had not changed the Varnock, but she had changed what they meant to the stars.